Hi everybody, thank you for joining me for today's yoga. Today we're going to have a lower body focus, so working a little bit into the quads and the glutes and a little bit on the hamstrings with a few twists thrown in. I am dog sitting for this week, so I have the little dog Buttons who is sleeping on the floor by there, and I've got the door open slightly in case she needs to come and go. So we're just going to work with it, and hopefully she's not going to try and get on my mat, but we'll see how it goes. If you like to work with a block, just have one to hand. I've got one here. I'll show you some poses where you can use them, but you don't have to have a block. This is a practice that is for all levels, so take it to a place that feels good for you. So if you're working with any injuries, just be mindful. If something doesn't feel good in the body, just back out a bit. So we're going to start today cross-legged. Feeling even in the sitting bones, nice long spine, and dropping the shoulders down away from the ears. Resting the hands on the knees. Maybe closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. And relaxing the face, relax the jaw, the forehead. And taking a moment here to settle on the mat. And bringing the focus inwards, noticing how you're feeling, how the body feels. Are you feeling any areas of tension? And bringing our focus to our breath, so inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Noticing as you inhale, your breath fill the belly, fill the chest. And as you exhale, that belly drops down in towards the spine. And we'll take 3 more rounds of breath together. And then you can keep your eyes closed here if you want, but we'll start to move into the spine. So keeping our hands on our knees. On an inhale, we're going to reach the chest forward, drawing the shoulder blades together, arching through the spine. Exhaling to round and contract, taking our chin in towards our chest. Inhale, reaching the chest forward. And exhaling to round. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling to contract. And one more time, inhaling and exhaling. And then coming back up to seated, we'll bring our left hand onto our right knee, taking our right fingertips maybe onto the floor behind us, or you can rest them on the lower back. Inhale as we lift out the waist, exhaling to take our twist. And drawing the belly in towards the spine, lifting up out the waist. Maybe taking our gaze over this right shoulder. And then release, coming back through to center. We'll go the opposite side, so taking our right hand onto our left knee, left fingertips come behind us, or you can rest them on the lower back. Inhaling to lift out the waist, exhaling to twist. And then releasing and coming back through to center. We're going to bring our right shin in front of the left shin and bring our fingertips onto the floor in front of us. And you may want to stay here. You might already start to feel a little bit of working into the right hip and glutes. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can start to walk your fingertips forward, maybe coming down onto the forearms and elbows, but noticing how this feels in the lower back and into that right hip. Maybe if we can bring your forehead down onto the floor. Walking our fingertips back in, lifting the chest. We'll go the opposite side, so this time the left shin is going to come in front of the right shin. Bringing our fingertips onto the floor. You might want to stay here. You might want to reach those fingertips forward, coming into that fold, this time feeling it in the left hip and into the left glute. walking our fingertips back in and lifting the chest, and we'll come into a tabletop pose. So bringing our wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips with a flat back. I'm going to start on my left leg so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to bend, keep a bend in the knee and bring my knee up at hip height. So bringing it out to the left, I'm going to bring that knee forward in towards the shoulder and then just make big circles with the hip. Noticing how this feels, if you're feeling any clicks or creaks. And then drawing one more big circle with that knee and then bringing that knee back down underneath the hip. We'll go the opposite side, so this time keeping a bend in that knee, bringing the right knee out to the right at hip height and then bringing that knee forward towards the shoulder and then just drawing some big circles. Working into that hip joint. And then one more time and then bringing that right knee back down. We're going to bring our chest forward, coming down onto our fronts, coming into Sphinx pose. So elbows underneath the shoulders, forearms out in front of you, pressing down through the palms of the hands and the tops of the feet, reaching the chest forward. Feeling like you can press through the palms of the hands and pull the floor towards you. And then from here you might want to work into the quads, so you're welcome to stay here in half Sphinx, but noticing how this feels in the spine, I will give another option. So we're going to bend into the right knee, bringing that foot in towards the glutes and then reaching our right hand behind us, catching a hold of the foot, maybe drawing that heel a little bit closer in towards you. If this feels too uncomfortable in the spine, you can lay the chest down and maybe rest your forehead on top of your left forearm. And then releasing that right leg and then bringing the right arm back down, so we're back in our half Sphinx. We can bend into the left leg, bringing that heel in towards you, reaching the left arm behind you, catching a hold of that foot and drawing that heel a little bit closer in towards you. Being aware of how this feels in the spine, there is the option to lay the chest down. And then releasing that left leg. And we'll bring our hands underneath the shoulders and push ourselves back up into our tabletop pose. And we'll make our way into our first downward facing dog. So we'll bring our hands slightly in front of the shoulders, fingertips blade wide, our feet to hip width distance apart, tuck the toes. On an exhale, we'll send that tailbone high, coming into our first downward facing dog. So you might want to pedal out the feet here, so bending into one knee and taking the opposite heel down towards the mat. Lengthening down the backs of the legs. We're looking for a nice flat spine here. Holding no tension in the neck. So gazing towards our feet or our legs. Ears are roughly in line with the biceps. Maybe coming up onto the balls of the feet, lift the heels, bend into the knees, taking our chest down towards the thighs. And then exhaling, straightening the legs, taking those heels back down towards the back. Don't worry if your heels are lifted. And then coming into some stillness with the legs. On our next inhale, we're going to take our right leg up towards the ceiling, bending into the knees and opening up into the hips. So trying to take that knee up towards the ceiling. Maybe taking a gaze underneath our left armpit. Maybe we can see our right toes behind us. Exhaling, lowering that right leg down, we'll go straight into the opposite leg. So lifting left leg, bending into the knee, taking that knee up towards the ceiling. Maybe taking a look at those left toes underneath the right armpit this time. Exhaling to release, coming back into our downward facing dog. On our next inhale, lift that right leg up. Exhaling, bringing the knee in towards the nose, stepping the right foot in between the hands, lowering the back knee down. We're in our low lunge. If you're working on a hard floor, you might want to pad the knee, so you can fold your mat over, or maybe use a blanket underneath the knee, making sure right knee is directly over the right ankle. Fingertips framing that front foot, sinking the hips down. Our hips are squared to the front of the mat. You can stay in your low lunge, or if you want to take a quad stretch, we're going to bend into the left knee, maybe reaching our left arm behind us, catching a hold of the left foot, drawing a bit closer in towards the sitting bones. You can stay here using your right hand to support you. If you feel comfortable, you might want to lift the chest and catch a hold of that foot with both hands. On our next exhale, we'll release this back foot, but releasing it gently down towards the mat. We're going to tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, lifting into our high lunge, reaching our arms up overhead, making sure right knee stays directly over the right ankle. Your back leg doesn't need to stay straight. You can keep a slight bend to protect the lower back. And then bringing our hands together in prayer position and down through to heart center, we're going to take a twist. So we're going to take our left elbow to the outside of the right knee. Maybe gazing over our left elbow. Try not to dump the weight onto this right thigh, so drawing that belly in towards the spine. If this is too much, you can keep the chest lifted and just turn over to the right. On our next inhale, we'll release the prayer twist, lifting back up into our high lunge. We're going to step this back foot in slightly and plant the back heel down, making our way into warrior one. So you might want to keep a wider stance between the legs, or you might want to shorten your stance slightly. Make sure the right knee is directly over the right ankle. Back heel is down, toes off on a 45-degree angle. You don't have to be aligned heel to heel. You can be on train tracks to help with your balance, reaching those arms up overhead. Option here to maybe interlace the thumbs and have the palms facing forward and trying to bring those arms apart by pulling through the thumbs, working into the shoulders. Trying to make sure our hips are facing forward here, so squaring off the hips and the shoulders to the front of the mat. And then release these hands, bring them down onto the waist. We're going to straighten into our front leg, and you might want to hop your back heel in slightly because we're going to make our way into pyramid pose. So inhale as we lift up out of the waist, and exhale, just fold down halfway. Check in that our right hip hasn't popped out to the right. Try and tuck it in so we're squaring off these hips to the front of the mat. If you want to go deeper on an exhale, we start to fold down over this front leg. You can bring your fingertips down to frame this front foot. Option to use a block. And resting one of your hands on a block or two blocks if you have them. Releasing the crown of the head down. Keep a slight bend in that front knee to protect the hamstring if your hamstrings are feeling really tight. Taking a bend into this front knee, we'll place our palms down, we'll step that right foot back and make our way into a plank pose. We'll move through our first vinyasa, exhaling to bend at the elbows and lower all the way down to the mat. Untucking those toes when we get there. Inhale, we'll lift into cobra, so lift in the chest, keep a bend in the elbows. Shoulders are down away from the ears, feeling that nice opening down the front of the body. Exhaling to lower, making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, lifting this left leg up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, bringing that left knee in towards the nose. Weight comes over the wrist. Step that left foot in between the hands. Lower the back knee down. We're coming into our low lunge. So making any of those adjustments you need to make the pose more comfortable. If you'd like to take the quad stretch, we're going to bend into the right knee. Catch a hold of the right foot with our right hand. You can stay here using your left hand to support you in this quad stretch, or you can lift the chest and maybe hold onto the foot with both hands, drawing a little bit closer in towards the sitting bones. Taking a deep stretch down the front of that right thigh. On our next exhale, we'll gently release this right leg back down towards the mat. We'll tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. We'll lift up into our high lunge. And then bringing our palms in prayer position down through to heart center, we'll make our way into our twist. So we can turn our chest over to the left. You can bring your right elbow to the outside of the left knee, twist in a little deeper, maybe gazing over this left elbow. And then we'll release from here, coming back into a high lunge. We're going to hop the back foot in slightly, plant that back heel down, toes off on a 45-degree angle, making our way into our warrior one variation. Make sure your hips and chest are facing the front of the mat. Interlace those thumbs, so maybe the opposite thumb is in front this time, and gently try and pull those thumbs apart, palms facing forward. On our next exhale, release those hands, bringing them down onto the waist, straightening into that front leg and hopping the back foot in slightly, making our way into our pyramid pose. Inhale to lift up out the waist, exhaling, folding down halfway into our flat back. Tuck this left hip in if it's popped out to the left, so we're squaring off these hips to the front of the mat. Exhaling to fold over this leg if you want to go deeper. Taking any of those options, you can use your block, maybe just resting your fingertips on the mat. Noticing how this feels down the back of the left leg. And then bending in to this front knee so we can plant the palms back. Down, stepping left foot backward in a plank pose. We'll move through a vinyasa, exhaling to bend at the elbows, lower all the way down. Inhaling into our cobra, exhaling to lower, making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, bend into the knees, gaze towards the top of the mat. We can hop or step up to the hands, coming into our half lift flat back. So palms can come onto shins, or if you're quite open down the backs of the legs, you might be able to bring your fingertips onto the mat, reaching that crown of the head forward away from the tailbone. Exhaling as we fold. Inhale, bending into the knees, press into the feet, circle those arms up towards the ceiling, palms feet overhead. Exhale, bring those palms down through to the heart. So bringing our big toes together, heels slightly apart. We're going to start to bend into the knees as we sink the hips. Bringing our fingertips down onto the mat. Keep those hips where they are. Inhale, lifting the arms, lift the chest. We're in our chair pose. You're welcome to stay here, maybe taking your gaze up towards your fingertips. Make sure your palms are facing in towards each other. If you'd like to challenge your balance, you can come up onto the balls of the feet, lift those heels. Maybe sinking those hips just a little bit deeper. Hugging those thighs in towards each other. On an exhale, release those heels back down. Release the hands down, straightening into the legs, coming into a forward fold. And then bending into the knees slightly. We're going to heel toe the feet out to the edges of the mat. Heels in, toes out. We're going to come into our yogi squat. So we're going to start to bend into the knees, sink those hips down. Option to use a block here if you need to. Our hands are together at heart center, so in prayer position, pressing those elbows to the inside of the knees, sinking those hips. We're looking for a nice long spine here. Crown of the head is lifted. Lengthen that tailbone down. Feeling broad across the chest. Working into those hips. We're not here for long. On an exhale, we'll release the hands down, straightening into the legs. Heel toe those feet back in, so they're hip width distance apart, back into our forward fold. And then slight bend into the knees, pressing into the feet. Circle those arms up overhead. Palms come together and bring them down through to the heart. Bringing big toes together, heels slightly apart. We'll sink the hips, bend into the knees. Bringing those fingertips down to the mat, keep those hips where they are. Inhale to lift into our chair pose. Bringing palms together in prayer position down through to the heart. We're going to take a twist. So we'll twist over to the right to begin with. So we're going to bring our left elbow to the outside of the right knee, turning our chest over to the right. Making sure our left knee hasn't popped out in front, so our knees are still in the line. Exhale, coming back through to centre, reaching those arms up overhead. Keeping those hips where they are. I know the thighs are burning. We'll do one more side, bringing palms together down through to the heart. We'll twist over to the left. Right elbow to the outside of the left knee, taking our twist over to the left, making sure the right knee hasn't popped out in front of the left. Exhaling to release. This time bringing the fingertips down, straightening into the legs. So we're coming into our forward fold. And then heel toeing those feet so they're back mat width distance apart, toes out, heels in. We're going to sink back down into our malasana, our yogi squat, so sinking those hips down, bringing our hands into prayer position at heart center to push those thighs open. Option this time, you might want to take a little stretch and work it into a bind. So we're going to bring our right arm out to the right as our left arm reaches out to the left. If you want to take this into a bind, we're going to bring our left arm behind us. Maybe you're wrapping it around the right thigh. Maybe you're bringing your right arm behind that right leg and catching a hold behind the back. Making sure the chest still stays open, so you're not reaching that chest forward so that you can take the bind. And then release from here, we'll go the opposite side, so reaching those left arm out to the left, right arm out to the right. Maybe taking the bind, so bringing the right arm behind us, bringing the left arm behind the left leg, catching a hold behind that left thigh. Exhaling to release, bringing the fingertips down, straightening into the legs, heel toe in those feet so they are hip width distance apart. And we'll move into one final flow. Inhale, coming into our half lift, flat back. Exhaling to fold. Planting the palms, stepping back into plank pose. Exhaling, bending at the elbows, lower all the way down. Inhaling into cobra. Exhaling as we lower, making our way into downward facing dog. And from here we can work this into a bit of a twist. So we need to shorten our stance by walking our hands in and bending slightly into the knees. So bringing our chest, maybe it connects with the thighs. And then bringing our right arm to the outside of the left leg, so maybe holding onto the calf or the ankle. And maybe taking our gaze under this left armpit. And then releasing the right arm, bringing our left arm to the outside of the right calf or maybe onto the ankle, and taking our gaze under the right arm. Releasing the left arm down, bringing those knees down onto the mat, feet come off to one side, bringing the sitting bones down, bringing those legs out long. Pulling those toes back towards you, pushing through the heels, feeling even through the sitting bones. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead, lift out of the waist. Exhaling, hinge from the hips and taking a forward fold. Bringing our hands wherever is comfortable, so no tugging or pulling here. And if you need to keep a bend in those knees to protect the hamstrings, you can. Releasing all the way down the back of the body. Inhaling to release, lift the chest. We're going to bend into the knees and scoot our sitting bones forward, placing the soles of the feet down, bring our arms out at shoulder height. Slowly with control, we're going to lower ourselves all the way down to the mat until our shoulders and back of the head come onto the mat, and maybe bring those heels a bit closer in towards you. We're going to work a little bit more into some strength into the legs. So with our arms down along beside us, you might be able to brush the backs of the heels with our fingertips. Don't worry if you can't. On an inhale, we're going to press into the feet, lift the hips and roll all the way up the spine, coming into our bridge. Bring our chest in towards the chin. Glutes and hamstrings are engaged to lift those hips a little bit higher. Hugging those knees in towards each other, so not splaying out to the side. Upper body is relaxed. On our next exhale, we're going to roll all the way down the spine until we bring our hips back down onto the mat. On our next inhale, we'll lift the hips, roll all the way up the spine until we bring our chest in towards the chin. This time, we're going to bring our right knee in towards the chest. And then maybe taking our right leg up towards the ceiling. So really working into this left glute and hamstring here. Don't worry if you've only just got the knee lifted, you don't have to lift the leg. On an exhale, bend into the knee and lower that right knee back down, going into the opposite side. So bringing our left knee in towards the chest, maybe keeping it here, maybe taking our left leg up towards the ceiling, maybe pushing into that right sole of the foot, lift those hips a little bit higher. Exhaling, bending into the left knee, bringing that left foot down to the mat and slowly rolling all the way down the spine until we bring our hips back down onto the mat. And then releasing the lower back, we'll take our knees from side to side. And then bringing both legs out long, we'll bring our right knee in towards the chest, holding onto the right knee with our right hand. We're going to bring our left arm out to the left, maybe cactus in the arms. On an exhale, we're going to bring this right knee all the way up. No, I've gone the wrong side. We're going to hold onto the right knee with our left hand, bringing our right arm out at shoulder height, cactus the arms if you don't have the room. On an exhale, we're going to take our right knee all the way over to the left, keeping that right shoulder down, maybe gazing over to the right, or you can keep your gaze up towards the ceiling. Making any adjustments you need to with this knee, so maybe you want to take a fist with the left hand and place it underneath the right knee, or maybe taking a block. If this is way too uncomfortable, just release and bring both knees in towards the chest, take your twist that way instead. And then rolling back through to centre, bringing the right leg out long, bringing the left knee in towards the chest, this time holding onto the left knee with the right hand, left hand out at shoulder, left arm out to shoulder height, so cactus the arms if you don't have the room. On an exhale, we're going to take our left knee all the way over to the right. Maybe gazing over to the left or keeping that gaze up towards the ceiling, making any adjustments you need to with that knee to make the pose feel more comfortable. And then releasing from here, we'll bring our left knee back in towards the chest. Bringing the right knee in to meet the left knee, holding on around the shins, maybe rock it gently from side to side, massaging the lower back. And then holding on to the backs of the thighs, we're going to rock up and down the spine to seated. You might want to roll to one side and use your hands to support you. And then coming into a cross-legged position, bringing our hands onto our lap or resting them on the knees. Maybe closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. We're just taking a moment here to see how the body feels after your short practice today. And then bringing our hands into prayer position at heart center, giving yourselves a little thank you for making time to get on the mat today. Bowing our forehead to our fingertips. Thank you and thanks for joining me. It was quite a hot practice today. We're having a heat wave here in Wales, and the children next door are outside in the paddling pool. You might have been able to hear them as we move through the practice today, and I will see you next time. Have a lovely day. Bye.